What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. I quite often sit and wonder how people figure out what to do with their lives. I have this internal dialogue about it that I feel I need to share because I have a feeling many of us have similar thoughts like this. Unless, of course, you've figured out your entire life already. And in that case, congratulations, I guess. Tell me what to do. For the rest of us mere mortals, I want to capture some of these thoughts that I have. I don't exactly know if they've resolved to being helpful, but there's something here, I think. The first voice that comes back to me when I ask this question, because it has a built-in assumption. The voice that comes back says, what makes you think people figure out what to do with their lives? What does that even mean? And maybe it seems like they do because you don't feel like you do. And so your own lens makes their life look more put together than yours. Everyone, especially the little peek through a little keyhole that we have called social media, because it seems so vast and so available, we have constant updates from our friends and strangers. It feels like that, like they got it all together. And even if we intellectually know that it's just a highlight reel, people only share their best moments, somewhere in our subconscious, we still feel affected by it, measured to it. And this happens even more because doom scrolling, the tendency to try to hide from your other feelings and just scroll endlessly, that tendency is usually done in or induced by theta states where you are most impressionable or susceptible to influence. Your subconscious is open. And the problem with that is we don't realize how outgunned we really are when it comes to these technologies. You would literally have to fight your entire human nature to be able to resist feeling like this. The thing is, no one knows what they're doing. Some people put faith in their assumptions and move forward. Some people are further ahead in figuring it out, and some of that is because they started before us, or some of that is because they found a little direction earlier than others and built on it. Overall, the thing I try to remind myself when I have these thoughts is that I really don't know what anyone else's plight or problems are. If I was Kanye, I wouldn't have these problems, but then I'd have Kanye's problems. And though they might have it all figured out by my standards, by their own standards, who knows where they think they are? Probably feeling just as lost as me looking at someone ahead of them. The thing I've figured out in trying to figure things out is that you figure it out as you go. So the only thing you really have to figure out is the getting going. And once you get going, and sometimes I struggle, and getting stuck and getting unstuck is a different conversation, and I'll definitely cover that on another episode. And I've talked about free states and the polyvagal ladder on episode 309 called the forcing function. But once you get going, the energy spent on figuring out which way to go then actually matters. That energy, all that energy of trying to figure out where to go, it's only then that it matters. Until then, direction is not your issue. Something else is. You just think it's direction because the fear that you have not dealt with, or the shame or the guilt or some other program in your mind that you have not dealt with, can easily hide behind the lack of clarity, a lack of direction. Which is ironic because you don't know which way to go, but you know to point in the direction of blaming the lack of direction. How did you get that clarity? Where'd you get that one from? But since it is direction that most of us use as an excuse to get hung up on, and when we look at someone who looks to us like they got their life figured out, it is this idea embedded into it that they somehow have found direction, found a purpose, found something worthwhile to dedicate their life to, and then excel at. So when direction comes into question, I can't help but think of something Hormozi said that has stuck with me for the years since I heard it, that we think we need to be exactly correct in where we need to head. We think we will figure out the exact thing that we are supposed to dedicate our life to. But you literally don't have enough context today that you will tomorrow if you actually are moving. That movement towards something itself reveals more of what's available to see around you. It's like playing the game where you walk into the uncharted territory and then 4 more boxes reveal themselves. And then you walk around a few more obstacles and walk in the other direction, and then 4 more boxes reveal themselves and the map expands. What he says is, we don't need to be exactly right. We need to just be directionally right. Just a general direction. And then more of it will make sense to you. And that's how any of these people who seem to have it figured out got there. Which only reminds me of a Rumi quote. It goes, "Those of you who are scattered, simplify your worrying lives. There is only one righteousness. Water the fruit trees and don't water the thorns." And this is about as much directional clarity as we need. Just water the fruit trees. Don't water the thorns. Somewhere inside of us, we all know what grows and what takes away from the beauty of that growth. If you just woke up every day and asked God or your internal dialogue, what should I do today? What should I avoid? Where can I be most useful? And if you did 3 or 2 or even one of these things daily, I think it would provide you with enough data on seeing more directional cues, more areas of the map, and figuring out your life even more. The problem is the existential dread that keeps us from even the exploration. What's the point of this at all? What's the point of doing anything? And if you do something, you also ask, is there a point to doing this? And we fail to see that sometimes, in the short term, there doesn't need to be a point. You have to measure in decades. No child starts to draw or sing or perform or play a sport because there was some explicit point to it, like they were training for the Olympics from day one. You just do things. And sometimes something emerges from within it. A version of you that has leanings and skills towards certain things. And then you do more of it, pointlessly, until it makes no sense to do anything else because you are so good and because it is obviously a huge cue, an indication of direction, and then you pursue it. But that only happens if you withstand the pointlessness to find the point in it. Water everything at first. Then when the foliage starts to define itself and you can identify what should grow and what needs to grow and what your goals are, feed what needs to be fed, water what needs the watering, sow what will actually soar, what's meant to grow and tower, and then prune away the rest and let nature take shape. I love you, family. Stay true always. I'll see you on the next show.